A very good evening to you. Welcome to another session of Man Up. This is where men sit and have discussions about issues that are facing us today as men, and also come up with solutions so that we can become better men. Somebody once said, if you can get the men right, everything else in society will fall in place. And that's what we hope to achieve on this show, to bring up men who understand who they are and what their purpose in life is. We have a very interesting conversation we want to get into this evening. We want to talk about the burden of provision. The burden of provision on the man. There's been conversations about the high cost of living and how life is becoming harder and harder. And guess what? Society still looks at the man as the chief provider of the home. And this comes with a lot of pressure and a lot of burden. And we've seen some men who are not able to stand up to this and they cave in. You know, men who get into addictions, men who commit suicide, men who just disappear. Why? Because the burden of provision was too much for them to bear. In studio with us today, I've got Dominic Omondi. Dominic Omondi is a relationships coach with over 13 years experience, currently working with Awakening Minds, which is a consulting agency where prospective clients awaken their minds to innovative content practices and learning experiences. Dominic, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you so much.
We are looking forward to be awakened.
Like the name suggests.
Like the name suggests. Why was tuangushe? Pressure on you. We also have a father of 3 sons. This is Mr. Lawrence Njue, who's here also to share his story in relation to what we are talking about today. How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
A thought came to mind even as we were preparing to start this recording. Is provision a burden? Because we said the burden of provision. Is it a burden?
It is a burden.
Uh-huh.
You know, when you wake up in the morning, the expectations all over. Mm-hmm. The moment you get involved in a family setup, you are married to a wife, you know, and then you have children later. Mm-hmm. So these are people who are looking at you for livelihood. So when you begin with that, remember on the background now you had a family.
Yeah.
You came from somewhere.
You came from somewhere.
So you have fathers, mothers, you have your relatives. Mm-hmm. So especially for those who have made it in life, so the focus is on you. Guys are like, tunataka kutoka kwako. So the burden begins there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a connection between the ability to provide and the identity of a man?
The identity of a man has to be there to bring who you are in that family, in that society, and being able to provide for the family, or you need a support system. A support system that will enable this man to provide, this man to be the man that they expect in the society, that father figure, that image that they want, or they want to see. Without the support system, that's where you find a man is like wobbling.
Yeah.
He's unable to step this side or this side because he doesn't know where to fit.
Okay. No, the reason I'm asking that is because I've seen many times, and I've also been in that situation myself, where as a man, when you lose your job, which is basically the means through which you're able to provide for your family, it's almost like you lose your identity. You have no voice. You no longer know who you are anymore. And a lot of men sink drastically when they lose the ability to provide for their family. Is this the right way to look at it, or is it because society has looked at us that way?
There's a question that we ask. Who are you outside the roles that you play? So if you can answer that, it will be a bit easy, because when your identity is attached to a particular role that you play, the moment that thing is taken out of you, you are a shell of yourself. Yeah. Yeah. So that can be actually something not good for you. So as a man also, beyond what you're doing for a living, you must have an identity. An
identity.
Yeah. So that at least when you lose a job, you can actually build up from scratch and actually still become who you are supposed to become.
Okay.
But the moment you lose your job and it defined you, you'll be pressure. You'll be a burden to other people now. People are looking at you as a source of provision. Then kidogo, they're looking at you as a burden in society. So I was telling a young boy one time who came to the office, and he was like, I'm not respected at home, but now what are you offering on the table? That is the flip side of when you become a man, there's expectation already.
Exactly.
So, and that will also tackle that part where now you were asking me before the show, where we have these men that grew up in a setup where now they were fed with everything, people are there, you wanted food, you go up.
Yes.
So that's why in this society right now, at 25, you can find a man at 25, anakula mkate bado.
Wow.
Sitting there at home, amevaa towel, just expecting to be given something.
At home ni kwa mama yake? Ama kwake?
Ni kwa mama yake. And it was a bit interesting because now, when you compare that to the girls that I have talked to, you find that now the balance is a bit weird because now the men are dropping out of school, mtu ako kampo, the third year amewacha. But the statistics, when you look at it compared to the girl child, they're doing their second degree at 25. But mjamaa amerudi, third year dropping back to their father's house, amekaa chini. Discussions are there every day. Wewe unafanya nini na maisha yako?
Anangoja mzae retire.
And you see the problem is the upbringing of the boy child has been degraded in so many ways. And especially wakati mtoto mdogo ana grow as a boy, unapata saa zingine akianguka unaamka shut up, don't usilie, yeye ni mwanaume. So you want this pain, ana meza tu. But a baby girl akianguka, oh baby girl, mommy, anadekezwa. Yeah, he's taken like an egg. Lakini but the baby boy kidogo akianguka mama yake kwa hapo anamwambia kwenda huko, you look like your father. By the end of the day, huyu jamaa anakuwa so much confused. But that's why you were saying.
But doesn't that have a positive? Because who wants a man who's crying over every other issue?
Yeah.
So it's good to be toughened, but the thing is this, and maybe you can share from your experience. I was going to ask you this. I find that in this society that we live in, mwanaume kama ana kakitu wenyewe kusema tu kweli, yuko na sauti. Kama boy child ana kitu, if a man does not have anything, when you have a good job, simu zinalia kila saa. Yeah, you are the man. If you are the man who goes out there into the clubs, ukiona umeingia mazee, wanajua Sonkore amekam. But when you lose the ability to be able to provide, it's like you become nothing. No one calls you anymore. Even your family, even the favor sometimes you had with your family, haiko anymore. I don't know if you've experienced that and what you can tell us about that.
I've experienced this because sometime I had a potential job. And everyone looked at me as a provider. He's the man that we need. He's the man of the house. He does. But it reached a point that at times I lost the job. And now there is nothing that I'm bringing on the table. And it's like, wachana na huyu sasa hana kitu, hana anything. I lose value in a way that I didn't know. That slowly by slowly, step by step, it took me to drug and addiction, because that's where I got refuge. Huko ndo nilipata majamaa tunashare nao, tunasema nyewe kimeumana. But pale kwa nyumba si kupoa. So with these guys, as we share, as we pass time, you find yourself huko ndani ya, because you won't stay there mpaka midnight without doing anything. Hapo ndio unaanza kuonja unaendelea, and the drinking escalates, and you lose that father figure, that father picture in that family, in that house. Even your own mother would like sema huyu sasa huyu chana na huyu asaidi huyu siwa. And I being the father of three sons, sorry to say, in many occasions that they've lacked to see their father figure, because most of the times I used to sneak out of the house saa moja hivi in the morning, I'm out, even if I'm not going anywhere. Siendi kwa ofisi.
Waone tu ulitoka.
Mimi nimechomoka tu, yani ni kudisapia, kusikia hizi stories kwa hapa ndani ya nyumba. ndio niye nikae na majamaa kule. So these sons of mine, what were they seeing from me? Yeah. So we as fathers at times we should have courage and face the challenge. Regardless of whether wanasema ama wasemi, face it. Be there. Haijalishi vile watasema. So my son is turned 23 years just the other day, and I'm like, huyu mtu sasa alichukua nini kutoka kwangu? I as a father. Because there are things, my roles that their mother can't fit in. Their mother can't fit in at all. The way the boy should grow up, the way he should relate with other men in the society. Hiyo mama atadili na wasichana wake. Yeah? But me, there's something that I need to give to this young man.
I love the aspect he's bringing. You know why? Because many times when we think about provision, we only think of material things.
Yes.
If I can provide a house, if I can provide them with the toys they need, they have good food they are eating, we think we've done our job. And he's talking about giving them, providing direction. What is it that this child has picked from me? So what can you say about provision from a wholesome perspective?
I want you to tackle it in two ways. One, there's the reality that men, we don't tell each other the truth at times. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's talked about the den, you know, where they go and have their drinks and stuff. So at times, we are with our friends, you know, in school, in the pubs, you know. So when you're with your friends there, they can tell you everything else apart from what you're doing wrong. So unaangusha familia, they're looking at you.
Yeah.
They know you're doing the wrong thing, but they can't. No one is raising a finger. Guys are like keeping quiet about the issue. So you end up having friends, people around you that you're calling a support system, but no one is telling you the truth. Hata ukiangalia tu your group, pengine if you are boys with like you're five in a group of 5 boys, you know, you can have a discussion, talk about anything. But when it comes to matters that affect your life, no one tells you anything. Anaona kama anaharibu the relationship that you had. So unapata guys, tuko hapo, mtu anaumia tu, you're just sitting there. You know very well that he should be home by 2. But not by 2. 2 a.m., 2 p.m. He should be home by 9 or 10. But you're keeping the guy knowing very well that the marriage is shaky. But you are still there with him, not telling him the truth. Wewe unajua vizuri umekubalika to come back home at 2. But you're keeping quiet. The guy anaumia hapo peke yake, unamuongezea ingine na ingine. The guy is suffering, but both of you are there. So that's one angle to look at it. But also now you have talked about other means.
Other means of provision, not just material.
At times when you talk about other means of provision, there's also the reality of people who are ahead of us. You know, like for me, my father, my grandfather. You know, people who the only thing that they talked about was school. And pengine your career. Those are the 2 questions wangekuuliza. Anything else hakuna. So your father was there, had relationships. You know, went through issues in the relationships. But hajakuchanua kwambie, you as a guy, please don't do this mistake. Don't repeat this mistake that I did. Because me, I met a guy who was like, me, you know, when I was growing up, my dad told me about women. He was like, now when you remember, you cannot finish all women. You know, ukiwa na wanawake huwezi wamaliza wote. So just take care of the zip. So that was a good advice that was directly connected to the mistakes of the father. But now we grow up, you have your father figure there, you have your grandparents there, but no one is telling you the truth about other aspects of your life. So what you know is get a good education, get a good job. I'm a big successful. Other than that, there's nothing else that you're told about. So when you grow up, you end up focused. You remain focused on the 2 main things. That's your career and school. So anything else, you're blind. When it comes to family, you're blind. I remember growing up, having stayed with my parents for a while, because I think I moved out at 24 there. So by the time I was moving out, I had no skill when it came to family. Because now, it was 1 year before now I got my wife.
Oh, your story is like mine, eh? I mean, I moved out at 24, got married at 25.
So the moment I moved out and I was pursuing my wife and we were having this relationship, there were struggles that came about at that period. So, because I lost my job at that particular moment. So the moment I lost my job, I got confused because now I'm expected to provide.
Yeah.
Remember, I was used to what? Staying at home, even if I was there trying to chip in on some sukari hapo, maziwa pale. But now, my mom, the buck used to stop with her and my dad. So hata kama kungekuwa maaje, the burden was not on me.
It was on them.
It was on them.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to have a covering from them. So later, when now I'm getting into this family, now I'm getting children, ndio naulizwa skari. Naulizwa pesa sijui nini. Kweli nimehaso because pia mwanaume afai kuzuba. Yes. So you do your thing, you push. Then later you relax. Relax even then you are anakuuliza, okay, so what's the solution? So I'm like, subconsciously, I was expecting help from someone.
Yes.
Because in me, sinimehaswa. Sinimamka asubuhi, I've done my thing, but I don't have anything. So nimekaa hapo. Tumekaa. Ananiuliza, dude, what are you eating?
Yeah.
That's when it hit me. At kumbe, the buck stops with me right
You're
now.
the head of the home.
Kumbe mebadilika. And if you could have asked me that question before,
yeah,
I could have given you a different answer. I would have told you that mimi najijua. Unajua kuna kufika mentality that we know, sisi po counseling, you know, I know what I want.
Yes, I know where I'm going.
I've got it figured out, you know. So the moment that came to me, I realized kumbe I didn't have the skill set for that. So I had to like work hard on that and really, so that got me into this job also.
What you're doing currently.
Yes.
I love what he's sharing because I think sometimes we miss out a lot on that. You know, providing, first of all, even being there. You know, providing your presence. Somebody said that you cannot substitute your presence with presents. And sometimes as fathers, we try and do that. Providing vision, providing direction.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a lot of conversations about deadbeat dads. Kuna wale hawako kabisa, lakini kuna wale wako lakini they can't be felt because they're not making any decisions. I don't know what your experience has been.
Yeah, my experience on that is there because you find that men, you could be having a very well-paying job. A good job.
Yes.
As we may call it, a good job. But, and living in a very up-posh estate.
Yes.
Yours is just to provide for that. Maybe you have rented a house, the house, yours is to pay the house, yours is to buy new cars, yours is to buy new clothes. But when it comes to the time that you need to be there for mentorship, the man is no longer there. Yeah. He's gone. He's busy with other men having kakambuzi somewhere. Now these children are growing up with maybe the house manager or the house help. So they lack so much. At times he needs to be there. You be there for them. Even if you're not talking so much, you just, as a father, you're just producing the pages of your daily newspaper, but wanakuona hapo. Wanajua, daddy yuko around, mzee yuko. Yeah, mzee yuko. If they want anything, daddy tunaweza. But if you're not there, whom do they relate to? Hata kesho yake, if they go to school, they'll be like, tulikuwa, tuko. And that's why you find that currently the generations we have, something is missing. Something is really missing. We are providing for gifts and all that, but we can't provide for the mentorship. That parental advice.
Yes.
Even if it's one word, it makes a very big difference. It will make a very big difference. Maybe something happened in the school during the day, the child is like confused what to do. And when they bring up that issue, you as the father, you advise. You tell them, no, tomorrow don't fight.
You provide wisdom.
Provide wisdom. That's what they need. They grow up happy child, happy boys, and they know the way to handle issues in the family, in their own families as well. Because they'll be remembering, daddy alikuwa anatufanyia hivi. Daddy alikuwa anatukomesha kufanya hivi. Like I know of people who say, mzee alikuwa noma, ungejaribu tu, kushika baisikeli yake. Wow, noma. You see?
You know, the other day, I was at my nilikuwa nimeenda kinyozi kumpatia haki yake asiseme ana sadaka Sunday kanisani. Kinyozi is called Jose. Jose, if you're watching this show, a big shout out to you. He's a great guy. And that day when I went to the barber shop, he had his children there, his daughter and his son. And so now he's shaving me and he's having conversations with his daughter. The daughter is probably about 8 or 9. And I was just there smiling. He was telling his daughter Now this is the work I do. Sasa unaona huyu ni pastor. Nikimaliza kumnyoa atanilipa pesa fulani. Sasa unaona ukiitisha pesa ya viatu mpya, this is how I get that money.
Yes.
So nikitoka asubuhi na kujaga hapa. And I thought, this is a very good conversation. Yeah, this is something many of us never. Mr. Okumu, uliwahi nipeleka kazini? Mr. Okumu is my dad. I know he's watching. Mr. Okumu, did you ever take me to the place where you work? Uko na deni yangu. I can't remember my dad ever taking me to his office. My mom, I was there several times. But my mom worked longer than my dad because my dad retired early.
Just imagine combining that, taking you to where he's working, taking you to the garage, you know, and just doing activities.
Yes.
You know, he's said a very good point that it's not a must that you give advice, you know, all the time.
Yeah.
You can actually be there.
Just be there.
And do some activities there because we run a rite of passage program that comes every end of the year in November. And we involve the boys and the dads. And it's very interesting because the boys were saying that the memories that they had about their father was the moment they had an activity together. Yes. So hizi zingine uliwaambia mambo ya SWOT analysis, mambo ya smart, nini. The boy didn't get any of that.
Yes.
But now the memories that lasted were those moments where now they were together, pengine watching football, you know. Yeah, so those memories now can actually build. You know, there's a saying that preach, if possible, use words.
Yes.
So at times you can be there. He can be there watching you because people forget that men learn by watching other men.
Yeah.
So
Very
by
true.
the time you are there are things. I see my young boy. You know, I have 2 boys, but my young boy who's 5, everything that I do,
Anacopy.
yeah, he's watching.
Very true.
He's watching. So that is the other aspect that we can look at actually.
Okay. Now we need to take a break. Interesting when you talk about memories. The same thing for me. When I think about my dad, the memories I have, one of the earliest memories I have is us watching the World Cup in 1978.
Nice.
Where 1978 ulikuwa umezaliwa mita kamera ama unaniangalia tu hapo unashake kichwa. Yeah, and traveling home.
Yeah.
In our Peugeot 3 or 4. Is it 3 or 4 or 4 or 4 back in the day? So what you're saying is true. We are talking about men and provision. We'll talk about the black tax. That's also another issue that a lot of men face. And we'll also talk about, so what's the way forward, especially when a man loses their job and they feel like they're losing their identity. How are they supposed to navigate through those kinds of issues? Kama kawaida, nakupatia dakika moja, ukachukue kopo la maji hapo kwa kitchen. And then we'll be back with part 2 of this conversation. Keep it man up on Family TV.
Tomorrow on This Is My Story. Born and raised in a non-Christian family, Moses paid dearly the cost of following Christ.
I was disowned, rejected, ostracized. I became homeless, no more education.
Finding love in his solitude.
She was a beautiful girl, but I never saw her in terms of like wife.
I said to him, I like you, and what do you think of me? Do you like me, yes or no?
Married in a glamorous wedding, the union was tested through fire.
First affair, mistake, forgive her. Second affair again, forgive her still.
I don't know where the strength came from, but I slapped him good.
Don't miss out on This Is My Story, tomorrow at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back to Man Up. Tonight we are talking about the burden of provision on the man and some of the things men go through and also finding solutions and the way forward. We have some questions from our studio audience, so I want to give them an opportunity to speak their mind and ask their questions. Tell us your name and then throw in your question.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Karaoke J. Mushero, and I got 2 questions or issues to raise. One is, at times I find myself, you know, for boys, they are much connected to their mothers. And as more of it I can say, as a last born, I find it more convincing to talk more of the issues to my mother, but it's just another day that I found it that my dad does not appreciate, and he came to me and told me that, you know, Karaoke, you should minimize the time that you talk to your mother about your father. You know, and I was left a bit confused because if I don't feel it more comfortable to talk to him, it's hard to talk to someone about himself, you see. Like I'm talking to my dad about himself. I might feel that something he's doing, I think, Dad, you're not doing right. He might feel like, who are you to tell me that what I'm doing, it's not right, you see. The other question is about in the African context. I find it like where I told my dad that, Dad, I need 2 acres of land. I want to cultivate. I want to invest. And you know what he told me? He told me, you should first focus on your education. Stop hustling around. And I felt like, Dad, if I tell you today that I need 50,000, you will tell me, what do you need the money for? I don't want you to question me. And that's why I want the 2 acres of land to invest. I find why does men feel that children should first focus on education and not invest? Why, the other thing, why should a man find it not convincing that when his sons are talking to their mother about their dad? You see, those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
You want to take that one? Kijana anaongea na mama sana.
Well, hapo kulingana na vile wewe umeanza na vile umeona, something could have happened kwako kitambo kidogo that created some that fear and anxiety that you cannot talk to mzae, kwa sababu unajua mzae ni mambo mbaya. So the only person with the easiest and simple person wa kuongea naye ni nani? Ni madhe, na ndiye mnakaa naye most of the times. But when the dad comes, akigurumia huko, missing. So you have no time for him. Hauna hiyo relationship, hiyo cross contact na yeye. But if you find time na yeye, utafind that hata yeye anaweza kuwa mtu the very best person ya kuwa associated to. Na yeye anakuwa mkali kwa sababu anaona kama wewe unamlenga. Hata yeye akona issues zake pia na wewe. Anaona kama unamlenga. So na wewe ukikuja kwake na yeye anakaa ni kama anataka kukulenga, but mnahitajiana. Because there are things that your mother won't advise you about.
Yeah.
Kuna vitu tu mutakaa tu kama mom and dad, hivyo. But at some point utahitaji your dad. So it's the high time you draw closer to him.
Yeah.
As bitter as he is, as munyama vile yuko, kaa na yeye hapo.
Ni huyo.
Karibia nazunguka naye mpaka utamwambia kitu nasema, hey, na by the way, hiyo point iko tu sawa. But ukikufa naye ndani kwa roho, hivyo. At the end of the day, haitakuwa mzuri.
There's somebody who said a quote on Father's Day in church that every young man always thinks his father is wrong. By the time he agrees that his father is right, he has a son who thinks he is wrong.
Exactly. That's actually true. Because very true. What's interesting is that now, if you don't change anything, you're going to repeat the same to your child.
To your child, yeah.
It was funny, in 1990, in 2002, I was watching World Cup. And I remember I think Brazil had scored a goal. So I jumped on my chair. I was celebrating, My dad turned on me. He shouted, he was like, unafanya nini wewe? Acha kelele, acha aibu. So I coiled, Fast forward, getting my child, there's a time my daughter was afraid of the dark. So me, I'm tired from work, I want to sleep. So I go pale and I go back giza. Me, I'm like, what are you scared of? So I shouted, same as my dad. So the pattern iliendelea. So I had to make a decision where you are in a position right now, maji imemwagika pande ya baba yako. It will take a lot for him to come down in terms of to be humble and to just accept his mistakes. But you are in a better position. You should go and approach him. When you approach him now, mend that thing so that now you heal from that, and then you will definitely now have a better relationship.
The whole thing of the education, I think sometimes we forget, when you think about your parents and when they were growing up, the most important thing was education. And I think education is very important because it gives you a foundation to build on. If you don't have it, I have a friend of mine who was not able to complete high school. But now he's gotten to a place in his life before he gets to the next level, he needs his certificates, but he doesn't have them. So guess what he's had to do? Yeah, he has a nice job, but he can't go to the next level without his certificates. So he's gone back to school.
Yeah.
So yeye wenda shule half day.
Yeah.
Sasa yuko form 3. Anafanya material form 3. So education is important.
Yeah.
But we also have to realize that the changes in generation. By the time my parents were beginning to be parents, you know, the most important thing was get education because jobs were guaranteed. Yeah, jobs were guaranteed. Yeah. You know, and options for investing and things like that were not as many as now. Yeah, and so our parents are always coming from the background of how they grew up. Yeah, your kids will have a very different perspective from yours. And sometimes instead of thinking they have no idea what they're saying, I think it's important to have conversations. Understand where they're coming from and also make them understand where you're coming from. And if both of you can come to a consensus hapo katikati, I think you can find better solutions.
Yeah.
Because the truth is now we have more opportunities.
Yeah.
Better opportunities than they had. Yeah, we have people who have degrees but have no jobs. We have people who don't have degrees but they're making very good money because of the many investment options that are available. Can we take...
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. To add on that, men, we have an issue with processes.
Yes.
That's something we should talk about. There is a process, you know, and we like skipping to the finished product, forgetting the process. There's a season for everything, you know. So whichever thing you're doing, there should be a process. And, you know, someone can come here in this nini and try to take your position.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with an illusion that he's better, not understanding that what you went through,
yes,
the process you've gone through to make, to build the man that you are right now.
Yeah.
But now they come, you want to rush into it. We forget about processes. And that can make you really rush and really miss out on that. You know, you can be having education right now, but you're building to something better.
Yeah.
Kuna time itakuwa hapo, and you'll have time to do everything else.
True. Can we get another question? Another maybe 2 questions that we can answer together so that we move faster.
Good evening. My name is Victor Solitei. It's a pleasure always to be in a conversation where we're talking about men, because this is something that concerns all of us as men. And the future, they have said that the future is female, but we still believe that if a man does not arise, I don't know what is going to happen. A few days ago, we were celebrating the Father's Day, and I noticed so many people when I was looking at my status on WhatsApp and even on other social media pages. I realized people are commending Happy Father's Day to all the responsible fathers on earth. And my question is fatherhood pegged on responsibility? If a father is not responsible, if you've given birth to a son and you're not responsible, are you still supposed to be called a father? Or is it because you've given a seed as a man and there has been someone that has been, you know, you still a father? Because I think we're having a lot of identity crisis in this generation, and it all starts from the parenting level. How we even identify ourselves now as fathers, how do they identify themselves? Because you find someone that has a father, and maybe the father is not really, doesn't care about anything, about their school fee, about their, you know, welfare. And are they still supposed to be celebrated as a father? Or should we, you know, something of the sort? I hope you get my question.
Yes.
And then now talking about the boy child in this generation, I think the girl child has been empowered in most conversations that we've been having. You realize girls have been empowered so much, because in education, when we were growing up, I think people realized that they have been leaving girls behind, and just, you know, so to bring up that gender equality issue and all that, they started to form organizations that empower girl child and all that. And along the way, we've realized that even when you walk around the offices, you'll find so many, you know, they have been overtaken by so many female. It's not a bad thing. But how do we, what will be your advice to the young men that would want to live together with empowered women. Because it's also a tricky, it's a bit tricky for a young man, because the society has brought us up in a way where as a man you have to, there are things that you have to do. If you do not do, you're not a man. So, and then now the woman is there and they have been empowered, they have a lot to offer. But if we do not really give them the space at times as men, we might sabotage the whole thing. So how do you advise the young men to live with empowered women? I think I can leave it right there. Thank you.
Growing up, you watched your father aninua mguu juu ya meza and the mom serving him.
Yes.
In a period there, your mom began a discussion with the daughters about empowering them. The man, I don't know if that happened. But now you had an expectation already. So by the time you're meeting, already mmeingia kwa vita. She's empowered, she has a degree, she has a nice job. Wewe umeingia with the memory of what your dad used to do. Anaingia pale. So what happens at that particular point, when there is no proper counseling about that or direction about that, you're going to go at war. Because now you're going to force your way. And for her as an empowered woman, she's going to force her way based on what she had. So, hapo mtapigana. So the good thing is that now, number one, you should know who you are marrying. It's important to know who you are marrying. Because when you understand that, you will know. Because when I marry someone who is not from a wealthy family, the dynamics are a bit different. I'm someone who is a bit low on education than I am. That's a bit different. But when you marry somebody that is there, the expectation that comes with that. Yeah. So you understanding who you're marrying will give you a better understanding on what to do. But when you don't understand that, you're going to be in a group of men, begin now dissing women. Kume women, you didn't know where you're getting. Because he's not going through the same problem as you. Wewe pengine alitoka kile. Kuna expectation ya maisha. So umeshampata, if you knew that, you could actually address that at a particular point of dating. When you address it and you become real about it. This is where I am, I'm getting here. Are you on board with this? But the problem is that now we bury our head in the sand, and then you have these expectations that are silent. Then there's a story where guys were from honeymoon, wakalanda kwa nyumba. Everyone left their bag at the door, wakaenda shughuli zao, expecting the other one washughulikie. The woman is a doctor. Ajazoea kwenda jikoni. Then mzee anaenda kumshughulikia. Then the guy is like, unaenda kunishughulikia. So there's a stalemate over there.
Yes.
So it's actually important to know who you're marrying. That will help you address the issue early. Because if you don't address if you don't understand, if you don't know, you're going to be in a fix.
Yes. And I think what he said earlier is also important, that as men, we need to start telling each other the truth. Because I keep asking men, when we say the girl child has been empowered and the boy child has been neglected, who empowered the girl child? Is it the men or the women? Huh? Is it the men or the women who are empowering the girls? Majorly men. So then we are the problem. Either way, if it is men empowering girls, we are the problem. If it is women empowering girls, we are still the problem. And I think what we need to do from my perspective is every one of us begin where you can. Yeah? If there are young men who look up to you, if you're the young men in your neighborhood, start telling them the truth about how life is and about the things they should expect. Because that's the way we empower men. Let's get them off this superficial life that they're trying to achieve. Kila mtu anataka kuomoka yesterday. It doesn't work like that in the real world. They're watching too many movies. They need to come back to reality. And we have to tell each other those things. Otherwise, then we can't wait for the women to come and empower the men. They can't do it. We have to be the ones to empower each other. There's a question he asked which is very, very, very interesting, the first question. Maybe you can say something about that. Just because somebody has fathered a child, even though they are not taking responsibility, should they be honored as a father?
Well, taking note on that point is, your father, you're born to your father, and since he has stopped taking responsibilities, should we honor them as their fathers? Yes, they have that aspect of being honored as a father, to make sure that they still maintain to be the men in the society. So that at least when you show them that respect that you are the father, you should go back and refocus and find out why is he telling me about his father, daddy, I want this, and yet I do not provide. You can be a wake-up call to them. You become a wake-up call to them, show them that there's a way that you used to treat us, but now you don't. Yeah? When they talk about having a dialogue, bringing each other minds close to each other, that will make the man now go back to whom he was before. But if you let him go, let him fall aside, let him move this side, he will go forever and forever. Watasema hata wanihezimu, hata na mimi niende kwangu huko. So bring him close. Bring him close as much as you can.
And you know, there's one thing that is even very biblical. There's a blessing your father carries that your mother doesn't carry.
Yes.
If you look at the Bible, it is the father who always spoke the blessing over his children. You know, and he didn't necessarily give them property.
Yeah.
It was just a spoken word. When Isaac is blessing Jacob, it's not like alimpatia 2 acres. He just spoke something over his life.
But and he doesn't have to be perfect
and
to do that.
And he doesn't have to be perfect to do that. God has given him that place and that
so
you just honor them.
Actually, you can be a bad husband, but that does not necessarily mean that you are a bad father. Yeah, there's so many dynamics that come with that.
Very true. There's a question I want to ask in relation to what he has shared. So for a man, how do you navigate through a situation where, let's go to the doctor, ule aliacha bags kwa mlango. Most likely, she's bringing in more bacon than the husband. So as a husband, as a man, how do you handle a situation where your wife is making more? She is like the sole breadwinner, or you lose your job and your wife is the one providing. How do you navigate through that?
There are actually important roles that you should understand. In a relationship now, as a man, you are a leader, despite the fact that pengine unaweza kuwa huko hauna kakitu. But the moment, what happens is that now when you lack something, you coil down.
Yes.
Then you and women, if you understand them very well, when there is a vacuum,
they step in.
They'll take.
Yeah.
So you should have the identity that you're sure who you are. You're sure of your roles. It's easy for you to take lead from there. You can actually take lead from there. Because now, if there's something also you're doing right, do it. Continue doing it. Because now at times, anaweza kuwa na provide, but the other things you're doing, some of them I can't mention, but other things you're doing right. So you can keep that memory. So because there's a reason they picked you. There's a reason they are with you in that relationship. So understanding your roles is very important, because as a leader, take leadership. Anaweza kuwa na hiyo 200K and you are earning 10K. My friend, take leadership. Play your roles nicely. Show leadership, because they desire to be led. So the moment that is off, utaona tu. That's when atakuonyesha madharau. But when you take your place without something, still itakuwa na impact. They'll be like, okay, there's a leader here. They respect you for that. But what happens, we coil down. The moment tunakosa kitu tunacoil. Unaongea na bass, ukikosa pesa unaongea na soprano.
You'll find that if you're taking your role, you take your actual role in that family, even if you don't have anything, and it comes this day you're going for an outing, the lady will call you to the bedroom and tell you about the lady you are the, unajua wendi mzee shika hii. When you utaenda unalipa hizo bills, you full the bills. And hata watoto wasema hey, daddy ni, you know, because you took your role. You are there, you are the father figure, and you stand firm. So nothing will go wrong. But the moment unaanza wobble kidogo, ndio hiyo madharau inaingilia sasa.
There's a vacuum there.
What about the flip side? Because I find that today we are raising a generation of young men who are okay sitting at home and doing nothing. Mama ashughulike na kila kitu.
Viboko.
You know, you want to sit at home, miguu juu ya meza na kajuice hapo kwa stool, ukicheza PS the whole day. But the lady is the one who is hustling out there. She's gone to work, she's come back. You know, I've actually had several ladies talk to me about this issue and telling me, Pastor, talk to this young man. What happened to our boys? Is that right? And what do we do?
This is a wake-up call. They should not be sitting in the house and putting their eggs on the stool or on the sofa. They should go out there and work hard. This notion ya watu kuenda Jivaji garden kukaa hapo, a group of men wamepiga circular hapo,
Bunge la wananchi.
Bunge la wananchi discussing politics the whole day. Surely, is that fair?
They will come for us.
It isn't fair. The women went to Marikiti, got the cabbages, brought them to the kiosk, waanze kukatakata, multitasking, breastfeeding the young one, cooking. Men, but we have to wake up. We have to find something to do. It doesn't mean that because something you failed somewhere, all is lost. All is not lost. We are still there. We were given the dominion by God all over the creations. Yeah? So why should any other thing come kwa njia yetu? To find out our way of doing some things, do things in a different way. The PS is not the end of it all. Utaiangalia jioni hautaikula. Yeah, we have to wake up.
Umeenda date and ati dem ndo analipa. Hapana. Mpelekee yenye unaweza afford.
Lakini si walisema what a man can do, a woman can do. Si hata walipe.
Unajua hiyo conversation inakuwa rahisi huko nje. In your house.
In your house it doesn't apply.
In your house you won't apply.
Huko nje unapiga kelele. Akiwa mtaani unaangalia zile za tulisema nini.
There were two other questions, I believe.
In African perspective, the provision majorly is the materialistic aspect of it.
Yes.
There is something that I feel that is lacking in the provision of the mental guidance, the psychological aspect. In definitely the father is the head of the family, and when in a family, the kids look up to their parent, especially the father. But when that mentorship lacks, there is lack of communication and relation between the father and the children. And that's why there is that gap of communication between the father and majorly the son. So the son has no one to look up to because the father does not provide that mentorship to the son. And so it becomes hard for the son to find it easy to relate well with others. You find that when he will be having the family, he will have a problem in having a communication, communication or relationship within his own family. So how do we go about bridging this gap between this provision of mentorship?
Okay.
It's actually important to understand two things. One, when you're a father and pengine you've not been there, it's hard for you to mentor. Yeah, because now you have to come back and simply try from scratch. And begin again. So it's hard for you to come and unaanza kupeana advice na hujakuwa for 10 years. Where have you been? So umekuja tu leo umeanza kupatiana advice. So at times we come in there. So it's hard to mentor men in a group. Men hide in groups. Mwanaume anajificha tu hapo na issue yake na jamaa zatu. Hataki kuibika because there's a sense kuna pride wrong nayo. So we have programs that focus on one-on-one, where we have a sit down with you. We go on a journey, understanding who you are, so that now you don't repeat the mistakes that have been there in your generation, in your lineage. So there are things we deal with, there are things you've gone through that define you as a person right now. So we go through it's an entire program, because we understood that now it's important to have that one-on-one with men, because the moment they're in a group, they can hide. And then mpiga makofi na muende home. Kumbe there's no impact.
And I think also sometimes it's up to us, because we see the gap, to ensure that the same doesn't happen with our children. Because if we see, and sometimes our fathers did all they knew. What they saw is what they did. But now we live in an information concentrated age where there's a lot of information about so many things. And so now that we know better, I think the onus is on us as we raise our boys, that we ensure we are there for them, because we have a better understanding of some of the gaps that our parents had. Because sometimes what we end up doing is blaming them. But that will not change anything. And you can't blame them that much, because like I said earlier, they were only doing what they knew how to do with the
Yes.
information they had
Yes.
at that time.
Yes.
Because at that time, provision was the big thing. And that is why when you check out my parents, their age, it was very common for the man to be working in Nairobi and the wife to be back at home raising the kids. Because it was looked upon as the most important role for the man is to provide. So watakuja Nairobi kutafuta kazi. Yeye bora mwisho wa mwezi ametuma kitu. He will visit home once or twice a month. And life was okay. Yeah, based on the information they had back in the day. But now we have so much that we know. It's up to us to make it better.
Yeah, that's what when you talked about provision of materialistic things.
Yes.
Now, well, getting back to you, what I believe and what I know, because now you have the information, as you've been told, there's a lot of literature that you go through, you know the mistakes that were there, shift the blame, move away from it. Now it's your time to mentor the young little boys who are coming up. Cross the bridge, bond, and blend. That you'll be able to mentor them and advise them. Like he said, you cannot just come up from the blues and you start mentoring them. It will be impossible. Now it's a high time you cross the bridge, blend, and create that strong bond with them, and you'll be able, to bring them up in the very best way. Because you know their weakness and their strong points. Yeah.
Very true. Something else I thought of before we run out of time. I know my producer is about to start showing me signs and wonders. How do we deal with the whole issue of competition? Because I think that's the other issue as men that is a big struggle. Yeah, because my friend here has bought a Prado. Hata mimi nang'ang'ana, nachukua malone na kila kitu. Yeah, atakuwaje na Prado na mimi siko na Prado. Yeah, when we are with other men and we are talking about life and we are talking about our families, I also need something to say. And I think that has become an issue that has drove many men into a hole that they find hard to dig out themselves out of.
There's pride that is connected with that also. Number two, also when we are talking about men, there are people around you. Run your own race, because that's what I was connected to when I was talking about the process. When you understand the process, you won't rush. You won't buy that thing just because someone else bought it. So you understand where you are and understand the process and build on where you're going. Because at times it may take you longer, but you will get your own thing. Because at times you can get into debt. At times, and that's what I was also connecting to, also the guys who have gone ahead of us. They're not telling us the truth. Mtu ameenda, you are living in Kilimani, you have all these cars, kumbe, the dad is not...
Group of schools.
The dad is not telling you the loans amechukua. Vitu amefanya ndo apate hizo vitu. So you are just there believing that you have money. So umetulia tu. So it's important also for those who have gone ahead, kusaidia watu wako chini kuambia, at times my friend, vitu nimefanya nifike hapa. Don't zimekopa. So that asikimbie juu pengine ni mechanic ana drive hiyo gari. Unadhani ni yake. Kwanza kuwa na pressure. Drive gari ya client.
Na huyu jamaa anabadilisha
magari
kila wiki. Kumbe ni magari za client.
Gari za client. Hapo sasa unaanza kucompete na yeye.
Haya. What I would add on to that is that we men should run your race. Yeah? Don't compare yourself wewe ni Rudisha, you want to run mbio ya Eliud Kipchoge. So just run your race, know who you are. No matter how slow unakuwa ukienda tu, you'll get to your destiny. You are the one who is working to your destiny. Usifanya so until anataka uruke huko juu, you might end up messing up so many things.
Very, very true. Gentlemen, we have to bring this thing to a close. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for coming. I think one of the most important things we need to learn is to be content as well. Even in relation to what you've just said about running your own race. I usually said, even as the Bible says, as long as we have a roof over our heads and clothes on our bodies and food to eat, tuko tu sawa. Let's learn to be content and let's not give in to the pressures of this society. Wanaume, I hope today's conversation has been able to give you something to think about. If you're sitting at home and doing nothing, like the men have said, get out there and do something. Do something with your hands, because we have been called upon to take leadership, and provision is part of that. But let's not forget that provision is not just material things, We've talked about providing wisdom, providing leadership, providing direction, providing your presence, being there, being available. Aya, wanaume, until next week, do have a great evening. Thank you for watching and God bless you.